Welcome back on the AM show. This is the newspaper review segment. I'm Sweetie Abochi. Benjamin Akako is in the studio. And in a bit, we'll be introducing our guests to you. Benjamin.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
We'll be fine.
Okay.
We'll be better. Your eyes tell a story today.
What do they say?
I don't know, but they don't look the way they always do. What happened?
I'd have to ask my eyes. I mean, I'm good. I'm fine. Just here to work.
If you say so.
Yeah.
Well, if you say so. Well, let's get right into the newspaper review. But of course, we have to salute those who help us bring you this segment. Every weekday, I'm talking about none other than Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. And here's what they are offering you. It's a freebie. It's gratis. You'll pay zilch. You know what? If you're a man, prostate screening for free. If you're a woman, fertility screening for free. All you have to do is reach out to them at any of their branches or give them a call. But let's start with the branches. They're here in Accra at Spintex, opposite the Shell signboard. Then there's Kumasi Kronum Abuehia behind the Angel Educational Complex. There's Takrade Anaji State. There's Tema Community 22, Tichman Hanswa, and Siama and Zama. Now, on to the numbers you can reach them on. 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. But just the start of the newspaper review, and we are joined by Wisdom Kofi Dogbe. He is a finance analyst, and he joins the conversation this morning from Amanone, far, far away. Wisdom, good morning.
Good morning, Ben, and good morning, Sweetie.
All right. So let's cut right down to it, and let's know what your thoughts are. For me, there's something burning on my chest that I'd like to talk about, but I don't know about you. So I'm going to throw the ball to you. Wisdom, a minute, maximum a minute and a half. Share your thoughts with us, and then we'll come into the studio. Sweetie will start with the newspapers. Over to you, Wisdom.
Yeah, Ben, I read about the Bank of Ghana making significant losses, stemming from some increased operational costs, including the astronomical cost of printing the currency. And Sweetie, I heard you mention this item on the news this morning as well. I think, though, that this is not the best news as far as the operations of the Bank of Ghana are concerned. I say this because every central bank plays a very significant role in framing and also implementing monetary policy to stabilize the economy and also to support economic growth, right? They are not necessarily profit-making banks like traditional banks, but such significant losses can reduce the bank's capital and also limit its ability to be effective when it comes to implementing monetary policy measures. And my worry is that this can impede the bank's ability to properly manage our current rates of inflation and also the ability to stabilize the interest rates and also influence the overall economic conditions. And then when it comes to financial stability, the Bank of Ghana, and for that matter, all central banks globally, they are responsible for maintaining fiscal or financial stability within the economy. And so when you start to record such significant losses, what it does is that it weakens the balance sheet of the bank and adversely affects its credibility, which potentially can lead to concerns about the overall stability of Ghana's financial system. And the downstream impact is that it can undermine investor confidence and also increase market volatility. And additionally, it can also create uncertainty in the economy. Now, all of us, right, we've been talking about the need to properly manage or influence the foreign exchange market as a key ingredient to stabilize the city. This is a critical measure that the Bank of Ghana is taking or should take. Engaging in foreign exchange market interventions to manage the depreciation of the city. But such significant losses can limit the bank's ability to intervene effectively, which I believe can also lead to further devaluation of the city, unfortunately.
Right.
Well, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts on that. The only bit I will add to that, just because we have Franklin Kujo who shared his thoughts on it. Let me see whether I can quickly get to that. There have been some comparatives. I've seen some comparatives in terms of, for example, the losses of some other banks in 2023. The U.S. Federal Reserve Bank, $114.3 billion. Central Bank of Turkey, $25.25 billion. Central Bank of Germany, $23.45 billion. Singapore Central Bank, $22.8 billion. And it goes on and on. The last one is the Central Bank of Ireland, about $143.41 million. And it's about a list of about 10. But then Franklin Cudjoe posts while he puts those side by side. And it makes for informed reading. Take a look at the two images attached here. The second one, a list of other countries that recorded central bank losses. Apparently, it's to answer the critics of Ghana's losses. However, we need to ask a few questions. And those are what I want us to focus on. What are the sizes of these economies compared to our self-destructed, as he puts it, or self-destructive economy? Where would the losses be felt harder? Singapore, that once essentially doled out $1,000 in budget surplus to each citizen, $1,000 to each citizen in 2018. Are there 1 million people in Germany, France, Turkey, Australia, Switzerland, Ireland, and Canada that have been plunged into hardcore poverty overnight? You know what they are referencing? The reports that say that on the back of Ghana's economy, including COVID-19, about 800,000 to 1 million people have fallen into poverty. That's what he's referencing. Because of the fiscal recklessness of their governments. Is that where they find themselves? Finally, what is the stated capital of these countries' central banks we are comparing with Ghana's? So it makes for, it gives you a lot of food for thought when we go about, we incurred losses, but look at other countries. And I'll just add this. When we compare Ghana with such countries, some will tell you, but why are you comparing us, a developing country, to the developed world? But when it is convenient, then we want to compare. But anyway, just some quick thoughts to share. Sweetie?
Right, so let's get into the newspapers now, starting with the Ghanaian Times newspaper. On the front page, on this transfer of votes for election 2024, EC political parties lock horns as emergency IPAC meeting ends in deadlock. Ochenhene Lands Ministry launched fourth One Student, One Tree initiative. Lil Wayne granted 50,000 Ghana cedis bail over accidents that killed 3-year-old boy. And dialysis treatments, government to subsidize treatments for below 18, above 60-year-olds, the Vice President has announced. Let's start with a story on the EC. And John Dramani Mahama has also come out to say that they're ready to fight whatever is going on, whatever collaboration they say the NPP is engaged with the Electoral Commission. But let's get into that story, which is on page 8, right? And it reads, an emergency inter-party advisory committee, IPAC meeting between the Electoral Commission and the political parties over the ongoing transfer of votes yesterday has ended inconclusively. The meeting was called by the EC after agents of the governing New Patriotic Party and opposition National Democratic Congress reportedly clashed at some centers. The exercise, which started on Thursday, May 30th, and scheduled to end on Friday, June 14th, has been characterized with violence and comes on the heels of the just-ended limited registration exercise, which recorded clashes too. Now, in the face of the reported violence, the election management body is shutting the door on political parties observing the exercise to tone down on the tension which is building up ahead of the 2024 polls. And that's what the NDC say they don't understand, because why should the EC now go back on something they'd concluded on, that he will allow their agents to observe the ongoing votes transfer? I'll do other stories before I come to you for reactions. Government to stabilize treatments for below 18, above 60-year-old, VIP announces. The Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, has announced government intervention for kidney patients undergoing dialysis treatment in the country under the National Health Insurance Scheme. He explained that under the policy, which took effect yesterday, dialysis treatments for patients under 18 and above 60 years old would be free. Yesterday, we did that story also in the newspapers, and it was Dr. Da Costa who was saying that Ochenhene Lands Ministry launched fourth One Student, One Tree initiative, initiates mental health levy, according to Professor Sari, who is a former chief executive officer of the Mental Health Authority, Professor Joseph Bediako-Asare, and he's calling on the government to replace the COVID-19 levy with a mental health levy. He explained that it would help address pressing mental health issues confronting the country, which he said required urgent attention and adequate funding. Now, Professor Sari, speaking at a forum on mental health at the Ghana Institute of Management and Public Administration in Accra, stressed the need for substantial funding and prioritization of mental health. I can say I don't agree with that. On the back page, Second Lady opens World Share Expo in Tamale. Muslim network sensitizes pilgrims to Hajj rites. And those are just the main stories in the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Coming for your quick thoughts, Dr. Dugbe.
Yes, really, I must admit that I was a bit surprised when I read that the EC gave a directive, to stop political party reps from supervising the vote transfer exercise. I don't understand why that is the case, because if you are the EC, you are more concerned about ensuring transparency in your process. Look, the rate at which the EC has been on the news for the wrong reasons, right? I worry that they are not putting their acts together to win the trust of Ghanaians ahead of the elections. And that is concerning. There were issues with BVRs, right? And issues with software to the extent that I heard they even had to use an Excel template at some point to tabulate their numbers. Just too many issues, sweetie. And in this case, I think that having political party representatives, to supervise the voter transfers, I think it can help ensure transparency and also fairness and trust in the electoral system. If you have all the reps of the various parties present, right, to supervise this transfer, sweetie, they can act as impartial observers, right, which I believe will ensure that all processes are completed in a very transparent manner. But in my mind, the presence of these observers, it also helps, to prevent any potential tampering of votes. And if you think about it, it's a tool that the EC should use and provide a check and balance on they themselves, right? They don't have to tell the folks that don't come, we don't want you at the polling stations. I don't think it makes sense at all. And it's also a matter of fairness, if I should say, because if you have observers from different political parties that are present during this exercise, wouldn't that just help all parties feel like everybody is treated fairly and that there is no bias or also favoritism shown towards one particular political party?
But Dr. Dugbe, to be fair, they are saying this is a result, this is their way of curbing the violence that is characterized both the limited voter registration exercise and now this vote transfer and registration for special voting. So that is their solution, because it's the party agents that are mostly instigating these events of violence.
Actually, it should be a balancing act, right? If there is violence, get the security agencies to deal with it. Don't compromise transparency for anything. I think that the EC needs to take into consideration the principle of equal opportunity and fair competition in elections. I think it's very, very important.
Right.
And I also think that, they have to allow these observers, from these different parties to ensure that they are accountable for any discrepancies that it may arise during the voter transfer process. But I think that the EC also needs to reconsider some of these decisions, really. If they want to build trust with the voters, I don't think they should be giving directive like this. I just personally believe that is the wrong call.
Okay. Let's get into the New Finder newspaper. On the front page, time to counter unfair reports about performance of African economies. That is according to Dr. Adam, the finance minister. Again, there is a story about 4th edition of One Student, One Tree initiative launch. And I'll get into it because this is the second time I'm seeing it. NDC minority kicks against next-gen Infranco 5G deal. Fidelity Bank records 1.17 billion Ghana cedis profit in 2023. And this is the New Finder newspaper. Let's start from page 2. Minister of Finance, Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam, has called for a revised perspective on the performance of African economies. He emphasized the necessity of countering the misinformation often reported by credit rating agencies regarding the economic performance of countries on the continent. Now, speaking to journalists in Kenya, Dr. Adams stressed the importance of presenting the performance of African economies from the perspective of African countries. He criticized the structure of international financial institutions, which he argued were originally established to address post-World War II economic recovery issues. And he stated that these institutions are ill-suited to tackle contemporary challenges such as poverty and ignorance. Okay. Kodio backs EC's directive on withdrawal of party agents. These are just some quick headlines before we get into the conversations. AG describes JACPA's application as frivolous, vexatious. Government must prioritize stable electricity to support 5G network. NDC minority kicks against next-gen Infraco 5G deal. Let me do this story. And National Democratic Congress parliamentary minority has kicked against the next-gen Infraco 5G deal between the government and next-gen Infraco Company Limited. A statement issued by Dr. Ato Forson, the minority leader and NDC member of parliament for Ejumaku Enyanisiam, copied to the Ghana News Agency, said the minority caucus in Parliament has noted with concern the decision by the government to give away Ghana's 5G spectrum to NextGen for the next 10 to 15 years. He said under the deal, NextGen Infraco Limited had been given the exclusive right to build, own and operate the entire 5G infrastructure network across the country for the use of all mobile network operators, internet service providers and other interested entities. He said the executive approval was granted by President Akufo-Addo for this deal on the 22nd of August 2023, allegedly barely 1 week after the company's incorporation on 16th August 2023. Now, the minority leader is saying that what was done through a non-transparent arrangement without any competitive process whatsoever is not right. AI key to improving educational outcomes. Adopting AI could boost Ghana's GDP by $40 billion, according to Agoko. Editorial says pressure and protect our forest, building for the future, developing infrastructure for the integrated aluminium industry. Here's the story I'm looking for. 4th edition of One Student, One Tree initiative launched. That's the last thing I'll do. Osajefo Amwete Oforipenin has launched the One Student, One Tree initiative, a key component of the government's flagship afforestation program, the Green Ghana Project, under the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. Now, this initiative aims to involve students from second cycle institutions in tree planting, instilling in Ghana's youth a culture of environment conservation and raising awareness about the importance of protecting the environment. I'm just curious to know how many trees we planted so far. Since this is the 4th edition, I believe this is the 4th year we are doing this. But Dr. Dogbe, your thoughts?
Sweetie, going back to the story on the 5G network, I would say that the only reason I could think of on top of my mind, for hiring a week-old company to roll out a 5G network, maybe this is for cost savings reasons, right? I say that because a new company may offer lower price win a contract, but the issue here is that there was no auctioning nor bidding.
Right.
So I'm struggling to justify this cost-saving reason as well. I know that the communications minister mentioned that NextGen, I think that's the name of the company, right?
Yes.
They said that this company was created for the sole purpose of rolling out this 5G network. And she said that there is currently no existing network company with the necessary expertise to handle this rollout. I find that, sweetie, pretty hard to believe, considering the proliferation of companies in the space over the last 5-10 years, right? Look, I think that this move could potentially cost the government more in the long run if they didn't get that decision right. The first thing I'll be thinking about is the expertise of the week-old company being given such a monumental task. Could they lack the expertise, and the track record that is necessary to execute such complex and also lucrative contracts? If they don't have that expertise, right, there is a higher risk of project failure and also unnecessary delays or even below par performance altogether, because they also need to learn in order to deliver on the contract expectations. And sweetie, I think that despite explanations from the minister, maybe it would have been helpful to auction and allow the bidding process to go on, right, to provide some transparency and accountability. I mean,
Right.
allowing all suitable companies to participate, showcase their expertise, and also ensure that the selection process is strictly based on merit and also fair assessment of criteria.
Okay.
Now, the way this contract was awarded without the usual bidding process, so it raises concerns about nepotism and favoritism and even potential corruption. If similar cases of the past would teach us anything, we've seen this movie before, sweetie.
We've seen this movie before, huh? Well, I still think it's good that we're asking all these questions now. I mean, on the onset of this, rather than wait and get a part two of all these deals that are going on, and we can't explain where the money went. But let's get into Benjamin's papers now.
Well, we'll look at the Daily Guide newspaper now. I'll train 1 million youth for digital jobs. That's according to Dr. Mahmoud Baumia. Then there's Ochenhene launches One Student, One Tree project. Low win in court over dangerous driving. We've already taken a stab at that story. And speaking of playing on words, NDC PC arrested over Kaswa stabbing. Anti-LGBTQ case, lawyers file addresses in 4 weeks. But I just want to get into two stories very quickly, and then I'll do something on the international front. So the flag bearer of the ruling New Patriotic Party, Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Baumia, has stated that he plans to train 1 million youth in information technology in order to create digital jobs for them. According to him, Ghanaian youth have an aptitude for it, and all that they need is the skill, not academic credentials, to take up the digital jobs around the globe. Okay. I will leave you to reflect on that when I come to you, but I will link the points I want to make to this story. NDC PC arrested over Kaswa stabbing. So the National Democratic Congress parliamentary candidate for Ewutu Senya East constituency in the Central Region, Phyllis Na Koyo Okuno, has been arrested over an alleged stabbing and possession of a firearm without lawful authority. The arrest of the party's parliamentary candidate and 2 others follows an alleged stabbing of Ato Forson, the son of the Member of Parliament for Ewutu Senya West and Minister for Fisheries and Aquaculture Development, Mavis Hawakumsin, at the Ofanko Electoral Commission office near Kaswa in the Central Region. Now, I know it is on the back of this that there has been some talk about and pardon my voice this morning, that there has been some talk about we don't want representatives, agents of these parties, observing the vote transfer process. Ordinarily, I would have said a step in the right direction to avoid any further escalation, to avoid chaos. But in this instance, there are some things that don't add up for me. One, I've heard, is it Omani Buama or Buama Otokuno, one of those, talk about the fact that he was the person who got the information that led to the discovery that there were missing or sold BVDs and BVRs, I believe, respectively. That is one. And that this is the same source giving him information. That there was some move by the Electoral Commission, and I'm just putting this out there and what it portrays, to do something like this, and maybe some things would be done, behind the door. That is one claim that is made. And that literally, I found it interesting that he mentioned that literally 15 minutes after he had got this information, the EC came through with this release, pointing to agents not being allowed or party representatives not being allowed at the centers. That is one point to take stock of. It doesn't add up for me. Number 2, there is also the bit about the NPP and its positioning. I've noticed something, and it's fed through the Fourth Republic, but whenever there's an issue, the party in power will support the Electoral Commission. It is a bit tricky for me in this instance for the NPP, because I listened to a representative from the party yesterday. It may have been Evans, Nimako, I'm not sure. But waxing lyrical about, for the sake of peace and all of that, let's be honest. If the NPP were in opposition today under President Akufo-Addo, or if he were trying to get to power, or some other member, the NPP would not subscribe to this. You and I, we know that for a fact. 3, you also want to look at the EC's credibility on all of these matters that have been raised. Problems from election 2016 and 2020. Let's not even look far. Just this limited voters registration exercise and the number of errors that were brought to bear. I'm just looking at them and saying that all these put together create a recipe for people not wanting to go along with this directive. Ordinarily, if we didn't have the sort of polarization we have and the entrenched positions we have and the likelihood of people cheating, because we also know that both sides, the NDC and the MPP, have cheated in elections in the past. We know it, right from the inception of the Fourth Republic till now. So when these things are said, do you honestly expect those on the other side to comply? I don't know. Your thoughts. I know you've shared your thoughts on that, but if I'm making any sense at all, you can respond to the Baumia creating 1 million youth for 1 million jobs for digital, the youth, and then the other bits that I just raised. That is, if you have any other comments, Wisdom.
Ben, the only comment that I have is still with the EC, right? I think the EC should maintain independence. They should be seen as maintaining that independence, right? So that folks can trust them. I think that they need to reconsider some of these decisions. If they want to build trust with the people that vote in this country, in Ghana, right? That their process, they need to ensure the people that their processes are fair and free of any political influence or any underground thing like you were talking about. You know, I would say that they need to ensure this transparency, and it is this transparency and oversight that will contribute to the good perception that they want to build ahead of the general election come December. And I think that this is critically important. It's becoming super, super important for them to do something about it because they are always in the news for the wrong reasons these days. And I don't think that bodes well for their image as an independent EC.
Let's just look at some news on the international front. Mexico elects first woman president. I was looking forward to this. I've always been a fan. And when I say fan, not specifically of this woman, but I think it's been Venezuela, or is it Colombia? Then we had, there was Croatia, so many other countries, New Zealand, and now we have Mexico. Claudia Sheinbaum has been elected as Mexico's first woman president in an historic landslide win. If you heard the way I pronounced Claudia, it's because I wasn't pronouncing it in English. Mexico's official electoral authority said preliminary results showed the 61-year-old former mayor of Mexico City winning between 58% and 60% of the vote in Sunday's election. More women in leadership, I say bravo to Mexico. There's also striking Russia with Western weapons crucial to Ukraine's success. The story says allowing Ukraine to use Western air defense systems against targets in Russia is crucial if Kyiv is going to repel Russian glide bombs and missile strikes against Kharkiv, a leading think tank has said. After Joe Biden's partial lifting, they are not allowed to shoot all the way very far into Russia, but there's a minimum level beyond the border they are allowed to shoot towards. Now, restrictions have been lifted partially on how Ukraine can use military supplies sent by the U.S., and Kyiv can now use American weapons to strike inside Russia. Any reactions to those? And then I'll wrap with the Daily Statesman, and we're done with my papers. Quick thoughts?
Ben, yeah, indeed. Mexico has made the history, right, in electing Claudia Sheinbaum as their first female president. You know, I'm quite interested in things about Mexico because at some point in my career, I had teams in Mexico City, and these are some genuine and awesome individuals that I've worked with. So I tend to get more interested in news about Mexico. So yes, I think that the president-elect, she's broken barriers, especially the long-standing gender barrier across the Western Hemisphere, right? And she's now going to serve as a powerful symbol of progress towards gender equality. I've been a proponent of women in leadership, just like you, Ben, as you mentioned, and I think this will challenge traditional gender roles and also stereotypes and demonstrate that women are equally capable of holding the highest leadership positions in our society. So congratulations to her and to the nation of Mexico for setting an example. I think that her election will send a powerful message to women and girls everywhere, that their voices also matter, their aspirations are also attainable, and so they can also aspire to the highest offices available to them. And Ben, I told you on this show a while ago that I'm also a father to girls also, right? So I like to see women breaking barriers, right? Serving as role models for my girls and the future generation of women and girls, and motivating them to pursue their goals, to also overcome their challenges and aspire to leadership positions regardless of what field they find themselves in. My expectations of the president-elect is that she will bring some diverse perspective and also different leadership style to the presidency. I said that because women are fond of bringing that diversity to decision-making process, bringing in fresh ideas, bringing in empathy, and also a necessary focus on issues that disproportionately affect women, such as gender equality and also reproductive rights. So I genuinely hope that she will succeed in her new.
Well, women shattering that glass ceiling, and definitely something to celebrate. On the back page of the Daily Guide, though I said I was going to the Daily Statesman, we didn't have title in mind. That's interesting thoughts from the Samatex coach after they beat BBNE Gold Stars by 1-0 after they pipped them to win the league. Then Enzo Maresca is new Chelsea boss. All set for Kylian Mbappe signing. And you wonder with Enzo, though, Chelsea going to play the Conference League, of course. Hopefully he'll do some magic with them. All set for Kylian Mbappe signing. He'll be earning some $16.2 million a year, and he has a signing-on fee of about 150 million euros to be spread across his period with Real, at least for this first term. I will make Turkish football more attractive. That's Jose Mourinho, who is now joining Fenerbahce, and that was his first news conference. The Daily Statesman, let's guard our environment. Ochenhene charges youth. He's been talking about one student, one tree project. I keep asking, the millions we've sunk into these projects, it's not a bad thing. The millions, how do we account for them? Where are the trees? How have we kept them? How many have survived? How many have died? And how many have goats chewed? Because we know all of that has happened. Nobody above prosecution, AG tells Ato Forson. I guess nobody is also above criticism, right? NPA, our officials cannot be held responsible for decision of tanker drivers, and PR calls for increase in Ghana's oil production. Wisdom, we have nothing more than 40 seconds. Any final thoughts before we go?
Yeah, man, I think that this whole ambulance case is quite an interesting one, right? I think that most commentators that I've listened to, who provide analysis on this, most of them preface their comments with caution, right? Acknowledging that these allegations against the AG, and if proven to be true, then the AG should resign to preserve the integrity of the legal system that he runs. So let's be clear on that no one, including myself, has condemned the conduct of the AG without first qualifying that by saying if these allegations are true, right? So let's be clear on that. Now, the burden of proof is usually on who is making the allegation. In this case, I think that Mr. Jakpa made these allegations and provided a voice recording of the AG allegedly coaching him and stuff like that. Now they are saying that the tape is doctored. So I think that the onus lies on them, and I mean the AG and his office, to provide evidence to that effect. People of Ghana just want to know the truth, Ben.
Right. Wisdom is the truth we are all seeking, and the truth hopefully will set us all free. Wisdom Dogbe is a financial analyst. He joined the conversation with us this morning. Sweetie? It's been quite a review, hasn't it?
Two gentlemen fighting for women and appreciating the work we've done to get to the point where we can be presidents and all. So, yeah, power to the women.
You can count on us, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just that sometimes some who get into certain offices do certain things and then it waters down the campaign. I pushed for someone to become president when I was undergrad. It had never happened before in a certain grouping. She didn't even want to do it because of that mindset of, oh, man, and I pushed her till she got there. But, the poverty minister in Nigeria, for example, I feel particularly pained because she's a woman, first of all, and she's 30-something. And recently she was mired in some, transferring money into personal accounts instead of, and I don't know, but I think
One
she may
bad
have
night.
been
A few
removed.
bad nights.
When those ones come in, it becomes a bit
few bad
problematic.
nights.
But